Oh, real quick guys, if you don't want to spend $50 on a set of Knipex pliers wrenches, Klein has now made a pair. I have a pair of the Knipex in my other bag, but these 7-inch Kleins are $25. Found some yesterday. They open just as wide, and these are marked for SAE sizes and not the metric sizes like the Knipex. But anyway, if you're looking to save money on some pliers wrenches, you can get these 7s and you can get a set of 10s, $25 and $35 as opposed to $55 and $75 from Knipex. So what's going on this Monday morning? It is Thanksgiving week. Hope everybody out there has a good day off, good time off for Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your families. We are looking at a Fujitsu Mini-Split. It is not heating. He said it runs fine in cooling, but it doesn't work very well in heat, if at all. So I have some books I printed out for some of these mini splits. Just the manual for this one, which covers the indoor and outdoor unit, is 171 pages. Go figure that. So anyway, these are the indoor error code tables. And if you saw that, we had a continuous flash on that light to the right. 9 green, 9 orange, which is an E99 4-way valve error in the outdoor unit. So we're going to get this thing opened up. I want to see if there's any kind of a fault on this board that's in here. Phillips head screw heaven, and I don't even think they stick to magnets. Yeah, they do. There we go. So I've got my magnets in this little pocket there. Boop. Plenty of Phillips head screws on these things, I'll tell you that. Get that off. First thing I like to look at is any oil. Now I did turn it on in heat when I was up there, and then it went into that lockout. It's cold on that pipe, which tells me it was running in cooling for that little bit of time that it was on. So evidently, maybe if it's got has a sensor in the indoor unit possibly on the coil, or sometimes they call them the heat exchanger sensor or whatever. And if it's not getting warm when it's in heat mode, it'll shut this thing down. Maybe it interprets it as running and cooling, and that's why it does that. I don't know. Huh. There's a little bit of paperwork. Usually you're not lucky enough to find that with mini splits. Not a whole lot to it though. A short English section, so yeah, glad I brought that book. I actually printed that off. As I know, usually I'm not going to have a manual, and then you try to pull them up on your phone, you can't read anything, so I'll print them off. But let's get this thing opened up and figure out what kind of, see if we've got a fault code out here. Alright, so for this 4-way valve, it goes through the flashes that you're going to see: heat exchanger, thermistor, room temperature thermistor, 4-way valve, main PC. What your possible issues might be: forecast calls, either a connection failure, thermistor failure for the indoor temperature, indoor coil, maybe a pinched wire, coil failure, 4-way valve failure, or the main board. There's no lights on this board that I can see anywhere looking around. Nothing flashing. I don't see where there's a board light on it anywhere. that I can tell looking up in there. So that's kind of odd, unless it just relays all the faults back to the indoor unit. But I'm not seeing anything in here or anything on the diagram that was in this book that shows a light. So first thing it tells you when you go to troubleshoot this is check the coil. We're gonna ohm that coil out 1.8 to 2.2, somewhere in there. So we'll see how that ohms out as far as our solenoid coil, which is right here. You see it back there. It comes back over here. Where's that wire go? Right there. So it's right there. And then it comes back and plugs right here. So let's ohm that thing out real quick and see what it does. It's 1.9. So the value is going to be between 1.8 and 2.2. It just depends on what the temperature is outside. That's at 60 degrees, 68 degrees, it's 58. So that's going to be good. Then it tells you to check the voltage right here. Not getting anything, and that's the confusing part, because it tells you check the voltage and you're looking for 187 volts or 253 volts, but it's odd that it would say at the same terminal that the solenoid is on, because I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a 100 and some volt terminal. We do have 248 going to the unit and 248 going back inside. It says remove the CN30 from the from the board. Check the resistance value on the coil. And at the same terminal, check if your AC voltage, depending on whether you got 208, 230, is 187 or 253 volts, appears at the main PCB. If not present in heating operation, replace the main PCB. If it does have voltage in cooling mode, replace the main PCB. So it's odd that that would be, yeah, the voltage on that solenoid right there, 220 to 240. 220 to 240. So yeah, there's a high voltage solenoid in a Mitsubishi Mini-Split. It's telling me right there, if it is not voltage, replace the main board. I guess that's Asian English. If it is not voltage, if there is not voltage, I would think it would say that, replace the board. We don't have voltage. Alright guys, one thing I'm going to try real quick. I'm going to plug this thing back in. I've got my needle leads back up inside that plug. So according to this, heating operation, if you do not have your high voltage on this terminal where that thing's plugged to, replace the board. So evidently this thing energizes in heat mode, and in cooling operation, if there is voltage, replace it. So evidently this thing energizes in heating and not cooling. Evidently Ring's got their fingerprints on this. I don't know. But that thing is a 200, if you look at it, whether you, I don't know if it's blurry or not, but 230 volt solenoid for that reversing valve. So I'm going to plug into that. Then we're going to reset the disconnect, and we're going to watch this thing, and when it resets inside and calls for heating, we're going to see if we get a pulse of 230 or if it maintains 230 or we don't get anything, just to confirm that we have a problem with this board. So we'll wait for that indoor unit to cycle back up, and probably got a delay for heating, so I will edit the sitting here for 5 minutes part of this, but I'm going to keep an eye on it, and we'll see what it does when it calls for heat. So it is on. The compressor is starting. That suction line, as you can see, we never got any voltage. Those things are in there snug. Right there. We never got any voltage, so I'm going to go with the fact that line's getting colder. So it's stuck in cooling. At some point that coil temperature sensor up there on the air handler doesn't sense this thing warming in heat mode, or the coil in there, the heat exchanger coil, warming in heat mode. It's going to shut this thing down, and it's going to flash that E99 fault again. It tells you got a problem with one of these things in this reversing valve. Fujitsu, guys, you gotta love it. I guess that's about all we can do with this. Just get them aboard. If you follow their instructions, that's what it tells you. You can go in and check your temperature sensors, but he'd have had a cooling problem if the indoor temperature sensors were bad. He said it runs fine in cooling, it just won't work in heating. So evidently this thing's not switching it to heat like it's supposed to. And it's the main board. Go figure. Anyway, guys, that's a Monday morning with a Fujitsu. Anyway, guys, appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and I hope you guys all have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time around.